Good morning. I am Danny Mann and I'm a support analyst with the InRoads Help Desk. Welcome to this lecture on the InRoads 8.8 Show Me Survey Tools. Today's lecture provides an overview of the survey tools available in InRoads 8.8 and we'll talk about how each tool works. Here's the agenda that we're going to cover this morning. The raw data has already been imported into InRoads Survey, so the first group of tools that we want to talk about are the ones used for viewing the data on the screen. Next are the tools that will help manage and process the data. Then we will show the network commands that can be used for performing least squares, traverse, and level adjustments. And we'll talk about how to export survey data to surface, geometry, and drainage. And our final topic will be creating the survey XML reports. The first group of commands we're going to look at are the commands for viewing your survey data. The View Survey Data commands display the different types of graphics that represent your survey data. You can display line work, symbols, point names, codes and errors, elevations, and more. Other commands that help you view your data are the Refresh View, Regenerate Graphics, Fit View, Find Point in View, which lets you quickly locate a point in your drawing, and Write Survey Data to Graphics. Let's go over to the software and talk more about each command. The first thing we need to know about survey graphics is that they are temporary graphics not yet stored in the CAD file. They allow you to display your data as you're processing it while you're still making modifications. For instance, as you modify coordinates in your Philbrook, the related graphics are updated immediately. Once you finish making the changes to the field data, you can then write the graphics to the CAD file. So we'll go to Survey, View Survey Data. Each of the View Survey Data options behaves as a toggle. Clicking the command toggles the graphics for that option on or off. And you can see I just turned all the planimetrics off. Planimetrics is the first option on the list, and that displays your figures or line works in the graphics. The Symbols option displays the characters that represents the points in your Philbook. Next is the option to display names of all your Philbook points. Codes displays the feature codes and control codes. Elevation is just that, it displays the elevation of each point. If you have errors, coding errors or notes in your data, you can toggle on errors and notes to see those displayed. And the final view option is for network, which allows you to display your traverse, your error ellipses, error bars, etc. And after we take a look at the Philbook data and manipulate it in our Philbook, after we get all our modifications done, the Write Survey Data to Graphics command is the one that we'll use to send the survey data to the DGN. The next view command is Refresh View. It redraws your graphics similar to the way MicroStation's Update View command works. Regenerate Graphics redraws all the graphics related to your Philbook, but only those that you have toggled on under your View Survey Data list. Fit View simply fits the data in the view, and Find Point in View allows you to quickly locate a point in the view and centers it in the window. If you're looking for a particular point but don't know where it appears in your drawing, you can use this to locate it. Just type the point name in the point name field, or you can use the locate button to identify it. This is very useful if you have lots of points in your Philbook data and you need to find one. The radius is the zoom factor that will be used when it centers on the point. So if we applied it, and now you can see it found 162 and centered it in our view. And again, after we get everything manipulated the way we want to, then we would do the write survey data to graphics. This writes the options that you have toggled on, and it writes them to the CAD file. Prior to doing this, they were just dynamic graphics, and now they're actually graphics in your design file. Next, we're going to look at the commands that are available in InRoads Survey for managing your field data. First, we'll look at the Philbook, which allows you to add, edit, delete stations and observations. Then we'll look at the Create Legend command, which allows you to generate a customized legend for your survey data. The Control Codes command lists the control codes that are available for use with InRoads Survey, along with their alpha codes in the descriptions. And then we'll talk about the Survey Style filter, which lets you sort survey data based on a set of rules, which allows you to operate only on a certain grouping of data. Okay, we're going to look at the Philbook data command first. Notice that this is where all of our survey data resides. The dialog box is resizable, and the columns are customizable. If you right-click on the area where the column headings appear, either in the stations list or on the observations list, you'll get the Philbook Custom View dialog. You can add or remove columns from your Philbook. You can change the order of the columns by using the Move Up and Move Down options. And you can even relabel your columns by using the Alternate Label command. Okay, the top portion of our Philbook shows the stations. That's all the setups that were made out in the field. The bottom window shows the observations, which include all the shots that were made from each setup. If I pick a station and right-click, notice you have a pull-down with menu options like Add Before, Add After, Edit, Delete, Rename, Find, Center, and Edit Style. This allows you to edit the information about an occupied station. So I'm going to select Edit, and you can see the point name, point type, northing, easting, elevation, the code that's used for that point, the backsite information, your backsite point, backsite direction, your instrument height, and over on the right you have any notes and attributes. You can make changes in the data here if you need to. For example, if I wanted to change the value for the instrument height, I could change it here. And then when you click Apply, all the shots taken after that from the setup will be changed automatically, and it also updates the graphics automatically. You can use the first, next arrow buttons to scroll from point to point. The options for type, you can have computed based on an observed point, fixed, which means it's based on a set of fixed coordinates, or from geometry, which means it is based on a point in the Kogo buffer. If you select the target button to the right of the stations window, you can data point on a particular point, and it will take you to that point in the Philbook. This area here is called the chainage, and it allows you to walk down a chain or a feature. For instance, you could check the elevations along a ditch using the first, next, previous, and last arrow buttons. Now you have several icons across the upper left of the Philbook. This first one, if you pick it, it just takes you directly to the survey options, which you find under Tools, Survey Options. This is just a shortcut to the command. Here you have the general information, units. You can set up your symbology for your point symbols, names, elevations. You have a corrections tab for your prism constants and your refraction index and atmospheric pressure, etc. And then a tab for observation standard deviation. Okay, the next one we pick is the survey style feature, survey style filter. It allows you to filter your data based on a set of rules that you define, and we'll go into detail on how to use this a little later. This button is for the report, which allows you to create a report on the data contained in your Philbook. When you click it, you can provide a file name and then navigate to the location where you want it to be saved, and it'll save it on your hard drive when you click Save. The icon that contains the binoculars is the command for Find Replace Codes. This lets you perform searches on point codes. You key in the code that you're looking for in the Find What field, and then you can replace it with different codes if you need to. So you can either just use it as a find, or you can use it as a find and then replace. This is useful if you have errors in your data and you want to quickly find out where they're located and replace them with new codes. The next icon is for Insert Parallel Point. And when you pick it, this is a new command for the Philbook, and when you pick it, what it does is if you have a dual line situation where you have a point missing in one line and it needs to be added in based on an adjoining line, you can use this command to compute and insert a point into the Philbook. So for instance, if you miss a shot on one chain and you have a parallel shot located on another chain, this command will insert a new point at that location. And the next icon is the Select Figure command. This allows you to identify figure in graphics, and the software finds the figure closest to the data point and then takes you to the first point of that figure in the Philbook. Okay, then we have duplicates only. If you toggle this on, it lists only the stations or observations in the Philbook whose names appear more than once. If you turn it on and no points appear, this means you don't have any duplicate points. This is another way to find mistakes that were made in the field and resolve them quickly by changing the point number. Okay, another thing I want to make sure and mention here is the help that's available with every dialog in InRoads. When you click that button, it brings up help, and it gives a good description of what the command does and defines each option on that particular dialog box. Notice that our help for the Philbook data has a Show Me icon at the top of the file. If you click on this option, it'll play a short Show Me video that allows you to actually watch a brief workflow of how this command works. Okay, the next command we're going to talk about is the Create Legend command. This allows you to create a legend for your survey data based on the styles that you select in this list. The title of the legend is the first option, and then you can specify the line length and the column spacing that you want to be used. Next is the windows that contains the list of styles. Notice that these columns are sortable just by clicking on the column heading. You can select using the Shift, or you can use All or None buttons over on the right. Notice some of the items are grayed out or dithered, and some are black. The styles shown in black are the ones that we have in our Philbrook data, and the ones that are grayed out represent survey feature styles that are available for use but that we've not used in our active Philbook. And notice this button over to the right of the styles window, and that takes us to the active filter, which is part of the survey feature filter. At the bottom of the dialog box is the Symbology portion of the dialog. This is where you control the appearance of the text. So if I double click on the text object, it brings up your standard InRoads text symbology dialog box, and here's where you control the color, the weight, the font that you use for your legend, the height and the width and the line spacing, etc. And on the Create Legend dialog, there's a Preferences button, and this allows you to save all these settings that you just made so that the next time you come in, you won't have to reset them. You can just open that preference and it'll remember all the settings on your dialog box. Next, we're going to look at the Control Codes command. There are three columns. You have description, alpha, and numeric. The only column you can edit here is you can edit an alpha for each control code, but you can't edit description or the numeric code. The first one is start. That just starts the line. Every time you use the ST code, the software connects the dots to make the chain or figure. Close, that just closes the figure. Point of curvature allows you to define the beginning of a curve. Point of tangency defines the ending of the curve. Exclude from triangulation, D and C, that just tells the software that point won't be triangulated. Random, any survey feature that you assign a random code will become a random point in the surface when you run the survey data to surface command. Next, we have the rectangle commands. Rectangle creates a rectangle based on 2 points and a distance. Close rectangle closes a rectangle based on 3 fill points. NT, non-tangent curve, specifies that a curve is not non-tangent to the incoming or outgoing segment line. It just allows you to break the tangency of a curve. Two important commands are the join commands. Join point, or JPT, lets you call out a point name and join it to another point in the field. And JNC, join nearest code, lets you join to the next nearest code. Distance, this code is like the rectangle commands except it uses tape distances. Template allows you to shoot a typical section. And cross-section, this is a new control code for InRoads Survey. Excess lets you shoot a ditch or a corridor without having to enter the coding on each string. This is useful because it allows you to collect uniform cross-sectional data and not having to input very much point coding. Add to adjustment set, ADJ just sets up that point for network least squares and methods to bring in non-occupied points, so that it'll recognize that point as part of the adjustment set. And then extend arc, the last one, closes an arc with another arc. It creates a circle. And I want to point out help for this command because it has some really useful information and diagrams on how the control codes work. Here's the cross-section command. So if you forget how one works, you can look here and it'll give you a definition and show you how it's supposed to work. And then the Save button, when you hit it, it updates your preference XIN file with any changes that you've made here to the alpha codes. Now let's look at the survey style filter. This command works similar to the surface filter command. You can create a set of rules to filter out your survey data. You can operate on a specific group of data rather than the entire set of data in the Philbrook. You can build filters that will include or exclude your data based on your build selections. You can start with all or start with none and then build from there, and then use your properties. This lists the types of data that you can filter on. So you can filter on a description if you want to find all the points that have the same text string in the description field. Alpha code, you can filter on alphas, numerics. This is a useful one, unknown codes. It lets you find all the points that aren't coded, and you can manage them by correcting the coding, or you can mark them to correct later. You can also build a filter based on custom operations, based on the cell or the symbol, the notes for each code, elevation, and attributes. You can specify a value to identify the data that you're trying to include or exclude. You can add rules and move them up and down based on the order you want them applied in the filtering process. If you wanted to search for all points that fell between a range of elevations, you would enter the elevations in the value field. If you had several points that had an elevation of 0, for instance, you could put 0 in the value field, and the filter would let you find a list of only those points that had 0 for the elevation, and you could either resolve them or exclude them from your filter. Save As lets you provide a name for your filter so that you can use it again and again, and you can create an unlimited number of filters to help you sort and manage your Philbook data. The next command we're going to look at is the network command. We're not going to go into a lot of detail on this one because it's been covered in another remote lecture, and there's a lot of information to go over just for this one box. I just want to say you can use InRoads Survey to perform least square adjustments, traverse adjustments, and level adjustments. Notice the button to the farthest right. This is import from Philbook, and when you click it, you can bring in network data from the Philbook into this command for adjustments. And when you pick it, you get a couple of prompts asking you how you want to handle the data. You include foresight observations to backsite points, and we'll pick yes. And notice then it brings in your adjustment points. and populates the data into your Philbrook, from your Philbrook. If you hit the Details button, it brings up all the details on the point that you picked. I picked point number 2. Gives you the point name, the point type. Again, you have the scroll buttons where you can do first, previous, next, and last, and scroll through the network points and observations. Again, the points are in the top portion of the network dialog box, and the observations are in the lower portion. And you can use the network Symbology command, which allows you to set up the line and text symbology for the traverses, for your points, for observations, and for least squares. The next command is the delete survey data command. It's pretty straightforward. It has a list of available Philbooks, and you can select one or more Philbooks to delete, or you have an option at the bottom to select all. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about, once you've modified the Philbook data and it's finally the way you want it, and you've written it to graphics using the Write Survey Data to Graphics command, you can use these commands, Survey Data to Surface, Geometry, and Drainage, to create features based on the data from your Philbook. So this allows you to create surface features from your Philbook data, and then you can use the InRoads Surface design and analysis commands on your Philbook data. Let's go look at the first one. Okay, the first one we're going to look at, Survey Data to Surface. The surface name field allows you to provide a new surface name for your survey data, or you can add the data to an already existing surface by picking the desired name in the pull-down list. So I'm going to add a new one called Philbook. You can use this, you can type in a style description. You can provide tolerance and maximum segment length. The curve stroking methods that you can pick from are horizontal and vertical, horizontal only, and do not stroke. On the left, you have an option to always use the style, the alpha code, or the numeric code for the features that you bring in. There's a new option on this dialog called Empty Surface. It allows you to empty the selected surface rather than append new features to the existing surface. And I think I skipped triangulate surface, which allows you to triangulate the surface as the features are created. Duplicate names is also new to this dialog box. You can specify how the duplicate names should be handled, whether they should be appended, replaced, or renamed. So if you're concerned that all surface data is maintained, you don't want to lose any data, then pick Rename, and it will rename any duplicate features that occur. And the filter button brings you back to the survey style feature so that you can use any of the filters that you've set up. And when you click OK, it brings up the Triangulate Surface dialog box, and you click Apply, and it triangulates the new data. It's taken the data from your Philbook and now made them into features in your surface. You can see the results here. I have 835 points and 1523 triangles. So now the data that began as your survey data, you can now use any of the surface commands to manipulate that data. The survey data to geometry command works in much the same way. Specify a geometry name, a project name for your geometry. You can provide a description, the curve stroking method, and again, these two commands are new. Duplicate names, which allows you to replace or rename an empty project, which if you have an existing project, it'll empty the data from that project. After you click apply and the software says successful completion, then you can go to geometry, any of those tools, and manipulate your horizontal alignments, or you can review horizontal alignment to review your alignment data. And the last of the exporting survey data commands is survey data to drainage. You can use this command to model existing drainage structures. It'll use the InRoads Survey attribution and populate the drainage database with your survey Philbook data. And if you have this mapped correctly, Storm and Sanitary will be able to pick up what type of structure it is from the coding and the attributes that that are on your point codes. Basically, all it does is take the attribute data from your coding and maps those to structures in your drainage database. And then this dialog box is how you set up the mapping between InRoads Survey and InRoads Storm and Sanitary. The name is the name of your drainage database, your SDB, and you can give it a description. And the structures lets you pick the drainage structure that you're going to map. So you can map manholes, inlets, pipes, culverts, and utilities. So for manholes, you'd be able to map the survey attribute to the manhole, the ID, description, material of the manhole, shape of the manhole, length, width, height, thickness, rim elevation, etc. So the workflow would be you'd first model your existing drainage system using InRoads Survey and attributes, and then you would import the data into InRoads Survey. Come here and set up your attribute map, and then click OK, and it sends the survey data to InRoads Storm and Sanitary, where you can use those commands for design and analysis. And other tools that are available are the inverse survey data and transform survey data commands. And we'll also look at how to create XML reports from your survey data. So let's go to Survey Inverse Survey Data. What this command does, it calculates a horizontal distance and a direction based on given points or a cursor location in the graphics file. You can key in your points, your backside occupied points, or you can use the locate button to identify them in the drawing. And this allows you to find angle, direction, and distances. Survey Transform Survey Data allows you to move, scale, rotate data from one coordinate basis to another location based on point numbers or new coordinates. You can rotate the data at the original point or at a new location based on a specified angle. And you can key in the point name or coordinates, or you can use the locate buttons to identify your from and to locations. Next, we're going to look at the survey XML report. When you pick it, it brings up Survey XML Report dialog, and it lists the available field books that you can create a report on. So I'm going to pick field data and then click apply. And the type of Philbrook data that you have determines the style sheet that you will use for your report format. So if I had adjustments data, then you could look at traverse style sheet, or you could look at least squares or level. I have mine. Notice that when you right click, you can set it as your default style sheet for that data type. So I have this one set as my default for survey. Also notice when you right click, the first option in the top of the list is for style sheet help. So when you click it, it gives you notes about that particular style sheet. So if for some reason you're coming up with a blank report, you can right click on this, pick style sheet help, and it'll tell you what the requirements were before you use that style sheet. And if I want to save this information to a text file or a Word document, I can just highlight and copy and paste this into the word processor software of my choice. To summarize what we've looked at today, we've had a brief overview of most of the survey tools available in InRoads 8.8 and talked about the basics about how they work. We looked at the various commands for viewing planimetrics, notes, elevations, and talked about how to use the find point in view to help us quickly locate a point. We talked about the Philbrook and survey style filter and how to use these commands to manipulate, modify the data. We talked about how you can send your survey data to surface features, geometry features, or structures in your drainage database, and use those commands, those InRoads commands, to analyze and design using your Philbook data. And then we looked at how to create survey XML reports using the survey XML reports command. This concludes our session today on Bentley InRoads 8.8 Show Me Survey Tools.